The story making the biggest headlines at the moment in the footballing world is Manchester United's, well, let's say, failed takeover from a Qatari. So Sheikh Jassim, I believe it's pronounced, said he believes he would have been the dream owner for Man United. He offered a fully cash bid, clearing all old debt with zero new debt for 100% of the club, and he's the only bidder who was offered to buy 100% of Manchester United. Supposedly, the investment package was worth more than 8 billion. To put that in context, Manchester United apparently evaluated at around £3.5 billion. I'm pretty sure West Ham United, last time I checked for the valuations by like GSB and whatever, they valued themselves at around £500 million. So it creates a very interesting scenario because the Qatari bidder still wants to buy a Premier League club, and there have been interest from Qatari investors previously for West Ham United. They have been unsuccessful, but it would be interesting to see what West Ham fans would make of a Qatari takeover, and actually whether it would be able to happen. There's so many different things we've got to think about here. Number one, ethically, would do like Newcastle and Manchester City feel bad that their owners are, I don't want to say corrupt, but that there are sort of underlying issues there, like with the Saudi Arabians and their rules for their rules for like women and such, and of course their use of basically holding the whole world to ransom with oil money. Obviously the Qataris, they have similar rules, and also there was the big story that came out of the World Cup with the ways that workers were being treated and the golfing class there as well. So there are ethical issues to consider here, of course, as to whether you want those people representing your club. Of course, it depends how you look at an owner. If you look at an owner as just somebody who pumps money into the club and you don't really sort of care where it comes from, and you just think that the football and the business is separate, whatever they invest into the club is what they invest, and then the club is itself, the essence of the club and the fans and the players, that's all separate to the owner. Or maybe you think that there's a marriage between the club and its owners, that an owner should be involved, should be interested in football and have like good footballing roots, and should come to games and should be a figurehead of the club. So it kind of depends, I guess, how you look at owners. And then of course the other thing we got to consider is how good could West Ham possibly be if we were bought by Qataris? I mean, you look at what Newcastle have achieved in the last 2 years or so, getting Champions League football, beating PSG 4-1, reclaiming their spot in the league. They were relegation candidates before. Now they hold some of the best players, I'd say, in world football. You've got the up-and-coming superstars like Alexander Isak, Tonali. You've got really good players such as like Sven Botman, Nick Pope. They've bought really, really well. And to be honest, you could put as much credit to that to Eddie Howe as you want, and you should, but without the money it wouldn't have been possible, and that's just how it is. So could West Ham go up a similar sort of route? Because if this guy is interested in a Premier League club, there's only a few candidates really. I doubt Chelsea will want to, because money is not their issue. They don't need more money. Todd Bowley's got enough money. They just need to be better run from an infrastructure point of view. Daniel Levy, I doubt, would want to sell the club, especially with the way they're playing at the moment. It would be weird for them to accept a Qatari takeover when they seem to be turning a new corner, and there's such a good relationship between the owner and the manager. And he has spent good money. He's not too lean. I mean, he's sort of known as a bit of a bit conservative when it comes to his cash, but I think there's a good sort of marriage there. Then you look at maybe Liverpool. Yeah, they've got some difficulties with FSG, or I'm not exactly sure who the owners are. But again, they're doing quite well, and they're on a rebuild now, and they seem to be doing quite well. Arsenal, no way that would happen. United, obviously, that's failed. City, that wouldn't happen. So then you get the up-and-coming clubs. You've got like Brighton, Aston Villa, West Ham, Brentford, I suppose. And I think out of all of those options, the most investable club for me, obviously a bit biased, is West Ham. I don't think you invest in Brighton because they're probably one of the best run clubs in the country. There's no reason for him to sell. Brentford, I don't think, has the glass ceiling that we have. And Villa, I think, again, their relationship with their owners is quite good. You look at West Ham from an investor's point of view, you've got a 60,000-seater stadium, which they've got the money to just buy it and do what they want with it and upgrade it. They've got a 60,000-seater stadium. They've got good infrastructure at the club to an extent. It's also very scalable. They can come in and build the facilities that they want to build and invest so much money. And I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to invest loads of money in a football club and maybe sees it more as of a business. And some of these billionaires kind of just like the idea of saying I own a football club and having a football club. Some people I see it as a business opportunity, which is how I personally see Sullivan, how he views the football club. And some people just just like the football club and just want to own the football club. But like I said, there's a lot of things to consider. And the other thing we have to consider is, I said that why would Tottenham want to switch owners when they're doing so well? Why would Brighton want to sell their owners or sell the club when they're doing so well? Why would Sullivan want to sell the club when he's doing so well? When he's now got West Ham on a better track. I'm sure as far as he's concerned that this is the start of the beginning of the Moyes era, and he can take the club to however many heights he can. There's loads of different reasons why he wouldn't sell as well. But I think for the purpose of or the view of a West Ham fan, which is of course what we're all talking about here, I've spoken about the glass ceiling in quite a few videos about how there's this glass ceiling that West Ham have, and unfortunately, that for me is probably about top four right now. I don't think top four is reachable for us. It's our glass ceiling with the way things are at the club, the money we're allowed to spend, or the stature of the club. I think top four might be achievable, but that for me is my glass ceiling. I just don't think we're a big enough club at the moment to be able to do that. If a buyer, came in and bought West Ham, I think that glass ceiling goes way, way up. I mean, you look at what Newcastle are doing. There's genuinely zero reason why Newcastle couldn't challenge for the league in the next 3 or 4 years. If they keep building the way they're building, investing the way they invest in, they get a top manager at the club, they get some more really good players, build on what they've already built on. There is literally zero reason why they couldn't challenge for the league title. I'm not saying they'd win it, but there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't challenge for it, consistently get top four. There's literally zero reason why they couldn't. For West Ham, if a buyer came in today and bought the club, there's literally zero reason why we couldn't challenge for top four and build on what we've already got, which is, we've got Jarrod Bowen tied down to a new deal, trying to get Lucas Paqueta. I mean, how much of a statement would it be if we had a new owner at the football club and he would just say, look, this is a new era for West Ham. Let's get you on a contract, got you on a contract. We've got quite a lot of old players as well. So there's quite a lot of room for us to invest in new young players and build up the squad. The thing for me as well is Mark Noble, obviously director of football. I don't know if he would maybe sit comfortable with it. And like I said, I don't know if Sullivan would want to sell the club. From a West Ham fan point of view, it's also quite hard to criticise Sullivan at the moment because he has spent quite well and he was really good in the Declan Rice transfer window. He did really well there, and he's brought in the new director of football or technical director in Tim Steiden. He's got obviously Mark Noble up there as well. The infrastructure of the club is good. I think it's quite good at the moment, and maybe the training facilities aren't what we want them to be, and maybe we'd like a striker, we want the better stadium and all that sort of stuff. But you can't question that Sullivan is doing quite well at the club at the moment. However, unfortunately, to be successful in football, you need money, and that's the bottom line. The big clubs, the best clubs in the world, whether they've got their money through hard work and invest in the football ground from the football club from the ground up, or whether the big investors come in and it just invested so much money altogether in the club, the bottom line is, unless you get a fairy tale story like Leicester, sustained success in football relies upon money. And if a Qatari investor came in and bought West Ham, I mean, like I said, if West Ham's valued at £500 million and the Qatari investor was willing to invest £8 billion in Manchester United, now let's be fair, Manchester United is probably the biggest asset in world football. You buy Manchester United, you basically own football. I mean, they're the biggest club probably in the world. Their, glass ceiling is inevitable. There's no reason why they couldn't repeat what they've done in the last couple of decades and win league titles. And, they're a club that has a massive fan base and will always have a massive fan base. One of the biggest stadiums in England, probably in the Premier League. I think Wembley is bigger. There's no reason why you wouldn't invest that much money in Manchester United, but they're only valued at £3 billion. You look at West Ham, we're valued at 500 million. If they offered like £1 billion and West Ham, they could easily build us up to be that top level club. I mean, imagine they came in, they said, right, we're going to buy the stadium, we're going to bring the seats closer to the seats closer to the pitch for the fans. We're going to invest in, making the ground better. We're going to make, now that we own the ground, we're going to make drinks prices lower. We're going to get a new training ground built for all of the players because, that's kind of needs a bit of investing. We're going to buy new players. You can buy whatever budget you want. We're going to just invest in this football club. And I think a lot of West Ham fans would love that. I think that takes us to that next level. It really does. And as much as maybe we won't be, the ethical side of things do come into play. If we were to be bought by a Qatari club, then essentially we would get that new beginning. Now, the only issue for me is that there is no football in Qatar. Only recently, I mean, when they bought the World Cup or whatever you want to phrase it, there was no football in Qatar, no sustainability for football in Qatar. They actually had to do a scouting network, sign players from overseas, and get them to play for the Qatar national team just to be able to form a side for the actual World Cup. So football basically has been discovered in Qatar for the last 1 or 2 years, and they don't even really have a national team. I'm pretty sure that all the stadiums they've just built, of course, supposedly are going to be sold to Africa for the African Football League or whatever it is they do, or just knocked down completely and turn into something else. Their national team's been disbanded. They're not going to feature any more World Cups. So thinking of it from a point of view of, oh, well, if this Qatari comes in, he's going to spend loads of money in the football club. He's going to invest in the stadium, invest in the training ground. Is he going to understand the essence of football? Is he going to come in and think, oh, West Ham fans want to be close to the pitch. West Ham fans want cheaper beer. West Ham fans, want this, want that, is he going to come in and think that? Because I think maybe you only think that if you're a West Ham fan. But then again, I also think you had to think in that mindset when you were building the stadiums for the World Cup. You had to create a stadium that was going to create a good atmosphere. So surely they have some grasp over what makes a football match enjoyable, how to invest, how to create. I mean, it's kind of impressive that they managed to form a national team and form these stadiums in the time they did. So there's a lot of things to consider here with this Qatari bid. And to be honest, I'm really not sure where I sit, because on one hand, I actually don't mind GSB that much. I keep calling GSB. Obviously, it is just SB now, I guess. But, I don't mind Sullivan that much. I really don't. I think, yes, there's a lot of issues with him. But, it's the same with David Moyes for me. We're playing well at the moment. I think he's a decent manager. And yes, when things get sour, I probably will say, oh, he needs to go. He's probably, one of the first things that needs to change. But with things as they are at the moment, why disturb it? We're on a good track. We've got a good team. We've got a good setup. There seems to be a good marriage in the club. Having that removed from Sullivan might be a mistake. But at the same time, I'm thinking, look at Newcastle. Look at what they've done in the last 2 years. I think it is only 1 or 2 years. They managed to get themselves out of relegation by some of the youngest, best players in the world. And to be honest, the upside for them is, endless. Like I say, they could honestly challenge for the league title if they keep investing the way they are, buying these big players. There was literally zero reason why they can't challenge for the title, especially with the way that big clubs seem to be dropping off at the moment. If Arsenal drop off in the next few years, or Liverpool, or even Manchester City, Pep Guardiola leaves, there's no reason why they couldn't challenge for that Premier League title. And honestly, weirder things have happened in the Premier League. So the way I look at it as well is this glass ceiling that I'm talking about becomes non-existent. There is no glass ceiling. When you have an investor who has billions and billions of pounds, this could be a new beginning for West Ham. We could be that next club to make that massive step up and follow in Newcastle's footsteps. But of course, nothing's been done as of yet. There has been Qatari interest from us in the past. Sullivan has, looked at selling the club, or has been, in offers with other investors about selling the club. So I don't think it's out the question for them to come in and ask West Ham, how much would you cost? What would the club look like if I was to buy it? I certainly don't think that's out of the question to be able to, get sorted. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, there is no reason why West Ham wouldn't be on that list of clubs for the Qatari investor to actually invest in. So please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Would you like a Qatari takeover? Do you think it's the right move for West Ham? Does it remove too much of the background of West Ham, the essence of West Ham? Or do you think, do you know what, money talks? I watch my football team week in, week out. All I care about is the fact that whoever the investor is stays way away from the football, puts up the money we need every single year, and we do the business on the pitch. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.